Hey, Brandon. We also have Eric from the Ionic team. He will be running the video, so I will step aside. You guys can take it away from here. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Hey, Brandon. Thanks for jumping on today. Thanks for taking the time out to meet with us at the Ionic Enterprise App Summit. Before we jump into some of our questions and start our interview, do you mind do you mind telling our audience a bit about yourself and what you do and what your role is at Doosan?
Sure. My name is Brandon Bakke. I'm a solution architecture leader here at Doosan Bobcat. Within our organization, I've helped to develop our mobile strategy and architectural runway to really support some of our digital solutions. I've been here for a little over 3 years now. Really heavily involved on both the web and mobile solutions for our MachineIQ offering. I also work with and partner with a lot of other solution architects in the organization. Been working with Ionic for quite some time in some previous roles at other companies as well, even back to the early beta days of it. And it's really a pleasure to be here today. It's exciting seeing how your guys' platform has really matured and grown over the past few years.
Thanks for the compliment and thanks for the introduction. Could you go a little bit into detail on MachineIQ, the app that your team's currently working on?
Yeah, our app, Bobcat MachineIQ, is an application that really allows our Bobcat owners to monitor and manage their fleet of machines from anywhere in the world. We offer different types of telematics data in the application. That can be things like location, hours, fuel usage, maintenance progress. We also provide packages to our end users that allows them to protect the security of their equipment. They're able to do this through mechanisms such as setting curfews where they're notified if a machine is started outside of some general working hours, or they can set geofences where if a machine moves outside of some geographic location, that user can be instantly notified. We also provide some advanced reporting mechanisms within the software. These can be things such as fuel utilization. We present fault codes to end users as they're happening. With those fault codes, we can also present maintenance instructions, so user can understand in simple terms how they may be able to resolve that issue with their machine.
That's some really, really cool stuff going on in the app. I wish I had a Bobcat machine so I could try it out myself. I'm sure all your customers are going to be very happy with this app. Let's talk tech for a bit. So the first question I want to ask you there is, what motivated you to choose Ionic's build stack, Ionic framework, and Capacitor?
We really wanted to leverage a lot of our existing developers that we have in-house today. We've really gone through this digital transformation over the last few years, really building out kind of our web solutions, and to be able to take some of those technologies that are used throughout our web solutions and really effectively use them in our mobile application strategy as well. Things like Capacitor, it's really nice where there is a large amount of enterprise plugins, or there's an amount of enterprise plugins that Ionic provides through their enterprise package that help us with some of those really gnarly problems. Things like authentication with our identity providers and authorization, things like biometric login, some of those pieces, things that would be more challenging for us to just build out ourselves. We've definitely been able to balance that whole kind of build versus buy for some of those more challenging pieces. Capacitor also is nice in that it provides us kind of this foundation of community plugins as well. So there's a lot of different plugins out there where we may not need them immediately, but there's definitely future use cases that may drive some of those plugins, and we're already starting to see some of those emerge within our solution. And so for us, the biggest thing was to not have to kind of split and have multiple teams that are very specialized in iOS and very specialized in Android. And we've been able to really build out this application with a lot of the same team members that we've used to build our web solutions. So that was a really big piece for us.
Cool. Any Capacitor plugins that you want to, or Capacitor community plugins that you want to name drop that you might be using or planning on using?
We've looked into there are some that will be coming. I guess that we're using a lot of the Ionic Enterprise plugins. We're using Auth Connect, Identity Vault, been heavily invested in some of those. For some of our future use cases, we definitely see some of those emerging and have vetted some of them that are out there. We haven't implemented anything yet, but there'll definitely be more to come there.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you're taking advantage of the community And it's, obviously our Ionic enterprise solutions. Another thing that I learned with working with your company is that you folks are using AWS for components of your platform. So what aspects of AWS do you really like?
One of the things that we really like with AWS is it just allows us to build these highly scalable solutions without having to manage a lot of the infrastructure ourselves. A lot of the REST APIs that drive our applications for both web and mobile are all built on top of serverless technologies. We're able to really have that infinite scale as our user base grows. We've also used a lot of the different inventing mechanisms within AWS that allows us to really decouple some of our services where we can organize our teams and services effectively. So as we manage dependencies between large numbers of teams, a lot of these services that AWS provides really allows us an effective mechanism to do that.
Cool. So I heard that this week is your launch week for MachineIQ. Congratulations. That's a very big milestone. Just a round of applause for me here. As you launch onto the stores, I want to ask you some questions. Number one, how are you measuring success using Ionic's tech stack at this point of development right now?
For us, a really big piece in measuring our success is time to market. I mean, we were able to start this mobile application and have a pretty full-featured working solution within 6 months. So it really allowed us to accelerate the development of that without having to find specialized resources that are very specialized in iOS and Objective-C or Swift, and specialized resources in Android or on the Java side. And it really allowed us to leverage some of those existing resources that we had to pull together the solution very quickly without that heavy onboarding process of learning these different intricacies of these different platforms. It was a comfortable solution for both our developers as well as our designers, and that really allowed us to accelerate our time to market. I think another measurement of success from me as an architect is that we're able to have this really highly scalable and secure solution. With some of the plugins that we've leveraged through Ionic Enterprise, like Auth Connect, we can ensure that our application is properly secured without having to kind of roll that stuff on our own.
So you had some initial goals that you wanted to hit using Ionic. If you don't mind, I'd like to walk through them one at a time, and you can just let me know how you feel you're tracking against those goals.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, we touched on just a couple seconds ago here, developing a secure application. Do you feel that you're tracking towards developing a secure application using Ionic?
Yeah, definitely. I feel that with some of the components that I discussed, Auth Connect, Identity Vault, it really allows us to not have to design and integrate our mobile app into our identity platform. A lot of those intricacies and challenges are kind of figured out by that offering, and that really helped us. We feel really comfortable with the solution that you guys provide. It's been well documented. It's definitely something that we feel very strongly about the security in our devices and our applications with some of the use of those enterprise plugins.
About providing an intuitive user experience, how are you folks tracking towards that?
Yeah, I think it's we've worked closely with our design team and our user experience team to really come up with a nice cohesive user experience, both across iOS and Android. The area where we really like Ionic Framework is that it has that single code base, but it adapts to some of the different views in those different environments. So iOS feels more native on iOS and Android feels more native on Android, but without having to really implement a separate code bases, separate UIs. I know that our design team works with some different tools and some plugins where they're able to even pull in some open source like Ionic components into their design tools. So as they're getting the designs ready for the developers, all of that stuff is nicely translated.
Pretty cool. The last goal I have here that you were tracking towards is cultivating a maintainable code base. Speaking architect to architect, that is a big goal of any project that I work on or any team that I do work with. So how are you tracking towards that?
Yeah, I definitely think from a code base perspective, I'm really happy with how things have shaken out. There's a lot of really good documentation out on Ionic site. There's a really big community behind it, which I think is really important. Any of the challenges that we run into our platform, there's a community forum out there. Maybe other people have run into similar challenges. Good documentation about the plugins. It's a really good open source project from the framework perspective as well, where there's a lot of engagement and a lot of those reference examples where we can really leverage a lot of that community to ensure that we're designing things following kind of proper patterns, and having everything into constrained to a single code base makes our whole Android Apple release cycle a lot more maintainable.
Glad to hear. The MachineIQ app, it contains some pretty cool functionality, as you were discussing before. One area I wanted to touch on was how do you use push notifications to engage the end users of the app?
Yeah, so push notifications are a part of our health and security package. It's a really nice mechanism where we can engage with the users in near real time. If they set up things like geofences or curfews, or a fault code is tripped on their machine, we're able to send that notification to the user and provide that in near real time. Those notifications today, we've integrated into our application, leveraging a lot of the pieces with our existing notification engine that was powering some of our web solutions and powering some of our emails, kind of with a combination of that and Capacitor's push notification plugins, we were able to really integrate kind of what we have today with the mobile stack.
That's really powerful stuff. Were you able to take advantage of AWS to, for lack of a better term, use the same system for web and mobile for your notifications?
Exactly. So a lot of our digital experience platform we have built on top of various AWS components, and we're able to use some of the Amazon's notification services, SNS, to really integrate to push notifications on the device using some of the out of the box integrations that they have within their platform. That really accelerated something really challenging like push notifications that can often take a long time to really iron out some of those intricacies with, and it allowed us to build a solution that integrated seamlessly into our existing notification framework.
You gotta love when that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything more you could tell us about the geofencing capability in your app?
Sure. So a geofence for a user is they're able to draw a geographical region on their map. It could be like a square, circle, polygon. And if a machine goes outside of that boundary, a user can be notified, and that notification comes through an email, a push notification. So some of the technologies that we're leveraging heavily with that is just Google Maps, using Google Maps and the drawing layers that are provided in Google Maps to be able to build out some of that functionality. We've also done a lot of heavy investment on our IoT platform side, where the IoT platform is able to understand when a machine goes outside of one of these areas and can trigger an event that is then handled by our application.
By your notification system, right?
Yep, by our notification system.
The next area I want to touch on is Ionic Appflow. Now, you and I, and you and myself and your team, we've worked together to integrate your application with Ionic Appflow, and I just want to touch on your team's experience in using it. How are you folks able to reduce infrastructure costs by using Appflow?
Yeah, prior to leveraging Appflow with our Ionic applications, we had to maintain Mac Mini somewhere that we'd have to kind of keep current with updates and SDK updates as they come out, Xcode updates as they come out, and just the maintenance of that machine, by leveraging Appflow, all of that stuff we're able to shift to the cloud. We're able to push out our provisioning profile certificates and really be able to kind of shift that building of the application out to the cloud without having to maintain our own devices. Something that's really been beneficial for us with that, as well as that Ionic continues to keep those build stacks current as these new new versions of Xcode come out or new versions of Android come out. So it's just selecting an item in a drop down to be able to virtually change that build configuration. And so that piece has been really nice for us. It's just removed kind of the management of those machines from being in-house into Ionic's cloud.
Glad to hear. I also found the way that your team used live updates before you actually published the app to the app stores to be very interesting. Do you mind discussing how you and your team were using live updates while building the initial or during the initial development of the MachineIQ app?
Sure. So with Ionic's live update functionality, we're able to, anytime any of the web resources within the application change, we're able to easily kind of push that package to the device, outside of an app store update or outside of a physical build of that device, and then connecting your computer, waiting for the application to build, and then pushing it to your device. So during our development process, it was really beneficial in that we didn't have to, unless we were doing things with native plugins, whether it was like push notifications, splash screen, some of those community plugins that would do some things like that. We wouldn't necessarily have to do a new build. So as we're really trying to iterate on our development cycle, developers or QA engineers or product owners, product managers could have that application installed on their device. And if some of these subtle changes are being made, those updates would come directly to their device without having to send them a new build or having to publish something new to test flight. Or it just really helped to accelerate some of the simple items at more of the UI layer.
Thanks for sharing. I really like that story because you folks were using live updates in a way that I'd consider to be out of the box, or at the very least, a way that I had never thought to use it myself. As we start wrapping up here, is there anything else about the MachineIQ app that you'd like to chat about?
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited. We launched the app on Monday. Kind of excited to start getting some customer feedback and understand how customers are using your application. This is really setting the foundation for a lot of future development. There's a lot of scenarios that we've been beginning to kind of think through, and it's nice to have this production ready app that's out there, and we're definitely looking forward to continuing to evolve it and continuing to see how we can integrate various pieces in the future.
Any feedback for our team, the Ionic team, or our viewers today that you'd like to share?
I mean, I'm a big Ionic fanboy, I guess. I've been using their platform for quite some time. It's been really it's really helped to accelerate some of our mobile application development. Worked with some other hybrid technologies in the past, like Accelerator or Cordova, and it's the community behind it is really solid. The documentation behind it is really solid. I've been a really big fan of it, and I'm really excited that we've been able to deliver kind of from thought to app in the store, like in a very short period of time. That's been great from our end. How we've been able to integrate it seamlessly to some of our other components. It's been a great journey, and I definitely am a big proponent of your guys' platform.
Thanks, and thank you so much for taking the time out today to discuss your MachineIQ app.